This story is anchored in the best friend's brother. That night, just past midnight, I saw his text. "I can't keep lying to you. I've been with her for months." The words slammed into my quiet apartment and rattled the glass on the kitchen counter. The room smelled of lemon soap and rain-soaked pavement, and I felt a familiar, unwelcome ache rise up from its secret corner and then spread through my chest, a bright, dangerous flame I had learned to smother years ago. He had always been the rumor I never dared to feed, the older brother who teased us at family gatherings and offered a steady, forgiving smile whenever his sister complained about her latest heartbreak. Now that line between us felt less like a line and more like a gate that could swing open with a single breath. My husband slept beside me with a predictable rhythm, and I lay awake listening to the tick of the old clock and trying to remember how to breathe without collapsing into the shadow of a truth I could not pretend I did not know. I had built a life on solid routines and the quiet joy of routine, a life I believed would hold. And yet the text whispered a different plot, one where love could be dangerous and miraculous all at once. The idea of stepping into that danger and letting miracle happen frightened me and thrilled me in equal measure, a paradox I had learned to live with only in novels and late-night whispers with friends who never asked for details. The setup came softly, like a rain that never quite becomes a flood. I was 38, a manager in a design firm that kept my brain busy and my hands full. My days followed a careful arc. Meetings, emails, the bus that carried me home through a city that looked different every evening as the sun slid behind glass towers. I loved my work, and I loved the woman I had become within it, able, organized, admired by colleagues for my steadiness. I had a partner in life who claimed to understand me, and our marriage had borne two small rituals that kept us tethered: Sunday bread and a shared playlist for long drives. The best friend who stood closest to me was Olivia, bright as a spark, loyal as a heartbeat, and she kept telling me that love didn't always arrive in grand packages. Sometimes, she said, the quietest doors opened into the deepest rooms. And her brother, Kai, had always looked like a door you were not allowed to open. Tall, with a laugh that bounced off walls and a sadness that wore him like a coat. He had come through the door many times in family stories and on a few damp weekends when the city fogged up the windows of Olivia's cottage. And those visits always reminded me that time could circle back to you in unexpected ways. The weekend trip to the lake, with everyone in our small circle, seemed like a harmless refreshment, a chance to breathe and to forget the small, bitter things that had begun to sting between us. The way a marriage can become a long corridor with doors you no longer bother closing. The inciting incident arrived when the world narrowed to a cabin, a forest, and the two of us standing by a window while rain turned the glass into a mirror. The betrayal was not the teary confrontation I had dreaded in the months prior, not a loud public collapse, but a whisper that settled into the bones of my life. I walked into our bedroom to find my husband's bag gone and a note on the dresser. "I am not who you think I am anymore." The ache that followed was a cold fire, a realization that the marriage I had cherished was already hollowed out by intentions unspoken and grief unshared. Kai watched me then, as if the room held a secret he wanted to solve. It was not pity in his eyes, but something like a compass needle swinging toward truth. In the quiet that followed, I felt the first dangerous pull of him. Not desire exactly, but a sense that I could survive a different version of love if I dared to be braver than I had ever allowed myself to be. Rising action unfolded with the slow gravity of a snowfall that refuses to stop. We did not rush into anything, and that restraint felt like a reckless luxury in a time when my heart was being asked to redefine loyalty. Kai was careful with me, funny, patient, and somehow older in his pain. As if the years had carved out a space where he could listen without interrupting my grief. We walked along the lake one evening, the air sharp with pine, the water an iron ribbon in the moonlight. He spoke of his divorce, not with bitterness but with a tired realism, as though he had learned to measure the cost of happiness and still decided it was worth paying. I told him little about the home I had built with a man who claimed to know my every favorite color and my simplest fears, because I did not want to admit how fragile that home had become. When his hand brushed mine, in accidental but electric contact, the world shifted. The touch was not a weapon but a spark, lighting a room inside me I had forgotten existed. We did not pretend afterwards that nothing had changed. We both pretended more than once that this could remain a neat secret, a small confession tucked into the sides of our lives. But secrets have a hunger of their own, and they feed on the space we give them. I paused then to press against the ache with a truth I had not yet named aloud. I deserved to love and to be loved with honesty, even if that meant hurting the people I cared for. If I remained silent, I would be choosing a quiet misery for every day that followed. If I spoke, perhaps I could reclaim the love that felt possible and real, a second chance at something good after so much disappointment. The mid-story call to action had to land at a moment where rising tension hummed in the air, and I found it in the simplest choice: to tell or not to tell. If this confession has you on the edge of your seat, hit like and share, because you will not believe what happens next. I did not press send to Kai's phone, nor did I tell my husband I knew he had betrayed me. And yet the thought of naming the truth aloud became a kind of self-preservation. To speak would be to choose, and choosing would cost me everything I still believed about the future. I spent a night listening to the rain drum the roof and the distant hum of the city below, two sounds that steadied me enough to decide to tell the person who would be most affected by the truth, even if it hurt me most to hear it in return. The turning point came with a letter I wrote and never sent. A letter to the woman my husband had chosen over me. A letter to the version of myself I had left behind when I said yes to marriage. A letter to Kai that never left my desk. I learned that second chances are rarely clean and never easy. Kai did not promise me a white wedding day. He promised fidelity to the honesty we were learning to share. And I offered him the messy, imperfect vow of choosing him, choosing us, again and again, even as the old life insisted on its own gravity. If the world judged us for stepping into a relationship that began in the shadows of betrayal, I chose to listen to the small, steady chorus in my chest that told me love could rebuild what was broken, that a heart could forgive what a mind still feared, and that a future could be more tender for having survived the storm together. The weeks that followed were not times of perfect peace, but they were times of honest conversation, of setting boundaries, and of seeking a way to honor the friendship that had given us our first spark. Sometimes the best kind of forgiveness is the one you grant yourself, the moment you accept that you can be loved again, and that love can be true even when it hurts. My husband and I parted with gentleness and clarity, because we both deserved to be seen, and Kai and I stepped into a different life, not erasing the past, but learning to carry it with grace and humor and an unspoken gratitude for what it taught us about resilience, about letting go, and about choosing love again when every reason to walk away seems easier. We found a slow, careful rhythm, the kind that grows in the wake of loss and blooms into something stubborn and bright. The future remained uncertain, but the air felt lighter, and I woke most mornings with a new impulse to listen to my own heart, to trust what it whispered when the world grew loud with opinions and fear. I learned to tell the truth, even when the truth would bruise, to kiss with care rather than with rage, and to let love arrive on its own timetable, not the one someone else prescribed for me. If you crave more raw, emotional confessions, please like, share, and subscribe. Your next chapter awaits. Emotional storytelling, forbidden love, second chances, mature romance, infidelity in marriage, love after loss, grief and healing, tenant love story, romantic narration, YouTube romance, healing through love, slow burn romance, older woman, younger man, heartfelt story, true feelings, emotional connection, faceless love, Olivia and Marcus, narrative romance, love found me.